Hello, folks. Welcome back to yet another episode of कोई नई बात बताओ. A special podcast. Yet today on कोई नई बात बताओ, we have a very special guest. He is a CA. He has completed his inter and his finals with an all India rank in CA. He has completed his CA 2 years back, and currently he's working with Bain and Company as a consultant, which is like a dream job for every MBA out there. And mind you, he is not an MBA. So how did he manage to do that? How did he manage to get an all India rank in his CA? And also, he hasn't done his college with via a dummy or a correspondence. He has gone to a proper college with a compulsory attendance. So he is an extraordinary person, or unconventional, as he likes to put it out. So yeah, I had a great conversation with him. One of the best for season 2, I suppose. Great philosophies, great insights, and great information. Yeah, guys, today we were on a time crunch, so I was not able to ask all my questions to him. But I assure you that I'll be getting him back on the podcast really soon. We will be recording another episode. But for now, you enjoy this episode, which is full of philosophies, full of learnings, and full of information. I won't be giving you much of the spoilers right now. Let's directly dive into the conversation and learn something new. Come on. So, hi Divesh, how are you?
All good, Dhruv. How are you doing?
I'm all good. We've been planning this for a long time. Now we have finally come here and sit down to talk. So feels good.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah,
No worries. Yeah, I'm honored. I see a anchor on my podcast. What else can I expect?
my pleasure.
So Devesh, there's this one ritual at Koi Nahi Baat Batao that whoever comes to the podcast as a guest, I ask them to introduce themselves first, and then we go about the conversation. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
Got it. This is very unconventional because usually it's the other way around. But yeah, sure. I am CA Divesh Harpalani. I appeared for CA final in July 21. I was fortunate to secure an All India rank 13 at CA final and All India rank 6 at CA intermediate exams. I hail from Ahmedabad, so I've also done my Bachelor's of Commerce from Gujarat University, precisely HL College of Commerce. Yeah, that's broadly it, at least in terms of my professional, rather educational qualifications. In terms of where I'm working at, that's Bain and Company. I joined Bain and Company post qualification, so it's about 20 months now since I've been working at Bain. Previously, during my C, I did my C articleship at Deloitte Haskins and Sells LLP in the taxation practice. And apart from all of this, I really am fond of public speaking. So, as a CA student, I used to participate in a lot of these CA student conferences, I used to present my papers, I used to participate in a lot of these elocution competitions. I had been a quizzer as well during my school time, as well as a bit of college time as well. But predominantly a public speaker. So that's something that I really love, and even these days I don't. Try to leave any opportunity that I get so far as public speaking is concerned. So that's probably how I would introduce myself. Over to you.
Okay, Divesh. So I see a CA and a public speaker and a consultant. So I'm sure there's a lot of work going around in your day, right? How a day looks like for you.
Yeah. I think pretty much, there are a lot of people who are working who find themselves in the midst of work. Most of your weekday uh, goes into, spending time at work. So most of the part of the day that you are awake, you're pretty much working. So it's usually just work and sleep for you during the weekdays. Weekends are slightly interesting where you get time to chill with friends. In case of me, especially, I really like I said, I'm really fond of public speaking. So I do kind of end up addressing a webinar or two each weekend or a podcast or two. So that's how my week looks like, if I'm to put it that way. But on a normal day, a weekday, it's pretty much work full day.
Currently, where are you living?
I'm in Ahmedabad right now,
Okay. So
which is my hometown.
let me ask you a very philosophical question directly in the start. What have you been thinking about life lately?
I don't think my view about life has changed over a period of time. It's been pretty much the same before as well as lately. I mean, I think life is pretty simple and there's no need for us to complicate it. Probably end up doing whatever makes you happy. Keep being with people who make you feel happy. I think that's pretty much what I really think of life. Keep it simple, and what makes you happy could change. So change with time that way, but otherwise, just keep being happy is the simple one line.
Okay. So, what do you think of this one word called discipline? Because I'm sure that you've been a CA ranker, and then before this, when we were talking about when we were doing the briefing of the podcast, you told me that you've completed the college like a regular college, not a dummy college. So I'm sure that discipline as a word has played a really important role in your life. What do you think about this word?
Yeah, that's the thing actually. I never, explicitly or expressly ever spoke about or thought about me being disciplined per se. It just happened, and obviously, like you rightly said, discipline is something that is definitely required to do anything and everything that you really want to in your life. But that's the beauty of it. You don't have to expressly decide that you have to be disciplined enough to do something. The moment you decide that there's something that you want to do which will end up making you happy, you will automatically become disciplined enough to end up doing so. So I never really, and I'm being very honest with you, the moment you say discipline, I really went back to school days when the class teacher or a subject teacher used to tell us, be disciplined, etc. Never did I ever hear that word after or even think about it very expressly in the last few years. So it's more like it should just happen to you. You don't have to expressly think about being disciplined. It's more like, if I'm to put it this way, it's more like a third
Okay.
person saying you are disciplined versus not, rather than you thinking I will have to be disciplined, because it should come from within yourself rather than you deciding to be disciplined waking up someday, because that won't happen.
Okay, because I think that in my age group, when I see people around, I see that the biggest problem or the biggest challenge in their lives is laziness. So, can you give us some tips to overcome that and become a better version of ourselves, not if the most disciplined version?
Yeah, so far as laziness and procrastination is concerned, and if that really, I mean, if your audience is actually listening to this carefully, I would go on to say, and this is something that will make them happy, which is, even I am someone who procrastinates, who feels lazy.
Okay.
But you always, ultimately, each of us do have that priority list in our head in terms of the to dos. You really know what is the most critical thing that you have to do. For example, this is a very random example, may or may not be a good analogy. But let's say, if you're not feeling well, you're starting to have fever, um, you may be lazy enough to go to the doctor and get yourself treated. You may probably be negligent in not doing so. But at some point, probably when you cannot even wake up from your bed because you're so unwell,
Hmm.
or if your temperature has risen enough, you definitely will have to visit the doctor or call the doctor over, right? So you can never be lazy or procrastinate enough to not do something when वो बोलते हैं ना, पानी सर पे आ गया है, तब तो you will have to
हाँ,
ultimately go ahead and do that. The only thing is, that
exactly.
is the point in time that you'll have to decide for yourself, that you want to really wait until पानी सर पे आ जाए, or do you really want to take the right step in the right time. Ultimately हम लोग सब सारी चीजें जो important है वो करते ही है. So the problem is in defining what is important for us. So unless and until you do that in your head, there's no, I mean, even I might be lazy enough in not, I have an infinite to-do list and all of us do. तो पांच चीजें हम लोग नहीं करते. But probably they are not important enough. Even if we don't do these, it's fine. The problem comes when there are things which are important. For example, if I am to study for CA final, or if I am to do work, I cannot be lazy there. There's no option for me to do that, because if I don't study for example, CA final examinations, I'll not clear and I'll have to sit and study for another 6 months. Do I want that? Obviously no. In which case, I'll have to be active and start studying. So I really, again, similar to the word discipline that you mentioned, I really again say it's not about discipline, it's not about laziness. The problem is, these are the right words, by the way. It's not like these are wrong words, but the
Yeah.
problem is we probably overcomplicate ourselves in thinking about these words, and making ourselves feel, okay, I need to stop procrastinating, and in the process of it, I'll watch probably 10 YouTube videos which will explain me on how not to procrastinate. तो उसका कोई सेंस नहीं
Right.
है. अल्टीमेटली द की इज टू डिसाइड व्हाट आर द इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स टू डू एंड व्हेन आर दोस टू बी डन. So long as that is clear in your head and you actually consider those things important, it has to come naturally. That's all I will leave you with. So the priorities are something that you need to be clear in your head with. That's the tip if I'm to give after. But I think it's not rocket science. It's very natural actually, and that's the whole beauty of it. You have to make it natural.
So true, so true. I totally agree with this point that it's just about prioritizing and prioritizing at the right time. Because if you don't,
Right.
then again you're procrastinating. Okay, so Devesh, are you staying with your parents?
I am.
Okay, tell me what is your thought about this particular scenario in current generation, that people don't really want to stay with their parents. People want to be independent in their lives. So there are two proper different perspectives, right? Staying with your parents, staying in a proper family is something which is very in my opinion it's a very heartfelt emotion, and staying independently is something which gives you a sense of self-worth. So there are two different directions. Elaborate both of them from your point of view.
Yeah, again, I really feel it's probably about complicating things. At the end of the day, do what makes you feel happy. But then again, at the same time, I'll have to be very careful when I use these words. Do what makes you feel happy, because then you might end up becoming self-centered and not think about the happiness of your family. I think you'll have to really assess all the pros and cons while ending up doing so. In the sense that what in each scenario, what gives you happiness versus what gives your parents happiness. When so long as there is congruence in terms of, let's say, if both of you are happy, if you are staying independently, go for it. If both of you are happy staying together, please do. The problem comes when probably you want to stay independently versus they want you to stay with them. That's the place where
Right.
the whole issue comes. That is where probably you will have to sit and assess, why is it that you want to stay independently. Is it because you want to prove that self-worth, that probably you can run the house, or is it more like there are thoughts that don't match. You'll have to really figure out what is the reason why you want to stay independently, and I think an active conversation with your family would really help. But I mean, one easy way could be, you be independent in the house and you run the house in terms of the house expenses, etc. I know honestly it's not as easy as one puts it, but at the end of the day, the whole world is going on, right? Like everyone has figured out a way or two. So it's you, and especially like you rightly mentioned, this is the age in the next 5-10 years. So between 20 to 30 is when you would want to take that call.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go on to list pros and cons, because these might be different for everyone, right? So everyone might have pros and
Correct.
cons listed differently. But one simple example would be, if you really feel that, for example, if you are from a tier 2 city and you're getting a good job, well paid job in a tier 1 city or probably a metro, then
Mm-hmm.
you may, it may be pertinent not to limit yourself in a tier 2 city, if by the way that is the same thing that you want. Now obviously your parents might not want you to go for it, given they would want you near them, but that's a sort of an attachment which, to be honest, may come on the way in the path of your growth. So you may have to take that step, go to that metro city, and then ultimately you may have to take a call that, okay, at some point I want to earn enough to be able to call my parents over here, and that should be sooner
Right.
rather than later. So in the next 2-3 years, whatever, rather than, let's say, 10 years down the line, because they may be old enough then to not accept change. So I think things like those is what will really differ from person to person, and I don't think I can go ahead and generalize what one should do versus not. One is decide what, like, how the thought process really differs between you and your parents, if it's the same thing that you want versus different things that you want. If it differs, and why does it differ, what is it that you want differently versus they want differently. Try to see if there's a solve for it. And if I give you an example of a situation, if it's a situation like this, a midway could be, maybe you separating, becoming independent, and then probably calling your parents to that tier 1 city or a metro.
Hmm. Yeah, that would be a win-win situation for both of the
Exactly.
parties.
Right.
Right. Okay, so for the audience, Devesh is, so I would like to put it this way, that Devesh is not an ordinary CA, right? Devesh, before the recording when we were talking, so Devesh has completed his college like a normal college, not the dummy college which most of the CA do. and also he has been, a very active person throughout his life. So let's talk about the CA, the journey of CA, and थोड़ा सा पहले से चालू करते हैं. यार दिवेश, बचपन कैसा था?
बचपन कैसा था? बचपन बहुत अच्छा था इज़ हाउ आई वुड पुट इट. इट्स अ वेरी जेनेरिक क्वेश्चन. आई मीन इतना अच्छा था कि मेरे को वापस बचपन में जाना है. दैट्स ऑल आई विल काइंड ऑफ लीव यू विथ, because it was so
Okay.
nice in terms of you not having any responsibilities, you getting to do whatever you want. You could sleep 15 hours a day and no one will tell you anything. Not that I slept for 15 hours a day, but the whole point is you are allowed to do whatever you wanted to. Not so much really. Uस time you still felt you have restrictions, but those restrictions were nothing in front of probably today, even though there might not be any restrictions, and probably given the fact that you might be earning and you might be, you can spend your money wherever, but you don't have the time to spend that money. The whole point is that way. I mean, when you were a kid, it was so much better. You're given the benefit of doubt by everyone, which no longer is the case. So childhood was awesome.
So when did you get the thought of becoming a CA?
Yeah, in my case, to be honest, it's not me who decided to do it. One of my family friends is a CA, so someone put it into my head, and I don't know who did. But since let's say a fourth standard, I mean, as long as I can recall, it is about let's say fourth standard since when I decided to do CA. But that is the point where I did not even know who a CA is and what he does, etc. But somehow I realized, over the years, as I grew in standard 9, 10th, I figured that my mind was probably, into numbers, into let's say something around financial numbers, etc., around money. So I realized commerce was the go-to thing for me, and within commerce also I realized probably CA was the best option. And again, given how I found myself to be very calculative, good with numbers, etc. I thought CA would really be a good career option for me. So yes, the initial thought was seeded into my head by someone. I don't know who that is. Most definitely would be my parents. But then it's not like they forced me to do CA. Not at all. It was my call at the end of the day because I felt I was probably meant for it. That's how I went to CA.
Okay. And once you start preparing for CA, let's break that journey down. There are three stages of CA in my in my knowledge, if I'm not wrong, for foundation, inter, and then finals, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for the future CA aspirants and the students who are currently pursuing CA watching this, please break every stage down in your opinion, that what that particular stage teaches you and how to go about preparing for that one particular step, because I feel inter is the most difficult one, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so I mean, what is the most difficult? If you ask this question to 10 people, probably you might end up getting 10 different answers. And we already have three options, so there won't be 10 different answers. There'll be just three different answers. But the whole point is, it's again very subjective in terms of who you feel. I do feel Inter is probably the most difficult, but I'll come to that. So each stage, like you rightly said, there's foundation, there is Inter, and there is CA final. Foundation out of the three is definitely the easiest because, at least in terms of the course content, it's a lot similar to what you've already been taught in 11, 12, and a step up. But it's not as difficult. The most difficult part in case of foundation is right after 12th, so you don't really get to enjoy the time after your board exams in 12th standard. So it's more like you're forced to study after having studied for like the whole last 1 year, etc. So that's the part where it gets tricky. But then luckily for me, I had my friends around. We used to, chill within lectures. We used to really have a lot of fun. Obviously, we studied when we were to, but then for the remaining time, we did have definitely a lot of fun. So at the end of the day, for me, while I really felt, it might end up being difficult, I did end up acing the exams. We did not have any ranks in the foundation at the foundation level. It was actually a 200 mark MCQ exam. So I ended up getting like 187 out of 200. So foundation pretty much is, easier given the fact that even the course content is easy. It's not long, so it's more like you need to prepare for it. But not pretty much as well. The most tricky part is you need to study after 12th, which is fine so long as you have your friend circle around you, which makes it easier for you because you know you are together. You're not the only one doing it. Everyone is doing it. So it makes you feel nicer. Inter, like you said, is the most tricky because right after foundation, again, you don't end up getting a break, more probably a week or so. But post that, it really gets started, and you have these long classes that last from 8, 10, even 12 hours on some days. and on continuous basis, for a whole 8-10 months we have these classes. It gets really difficult to sit for 8 to 12 hours a day and attend these lectures. And at the same time, it's not just attending these lectures, you need to do that self study also, because you just think it's about 1500 hours of content. You also have to do that
Right.
self study before those exams. So this is the part that where it gets most tricky, where you've heard a lot where people say C is very tough, and foundation to nikal gaya, but then people will be like foundation to is sabse nikal jata hai, inter nahi nikla to, something of that sort, right? So there's this pressure also that you have. There's a lot of course that you have to cover, and the time in your hand is very less. So that is the part which becomes the most tricky. And plus, at this point in foundation, tak to college start nahi ho. So you also have college alongside your inter. So it's college plus inter plus lectures plus self study. All of the things combined, and that's what makes it the toughest. But the good part is, again, so long as you are focused. And when I say focused, again, I mean not explicitly trying to focus, just getting the basics right. I mean, आप 8-10 घंटे lectures में बैठे हो, आप lecture में बैठ के अच्छे से just focus and try and understand what the faculties are trying to teach you. Once the classes are getting over, you get dedicated self study time. Get stuff sorted in the self study, make a good plan, divide your 8 subjects into X number of days, Y number of days. Get your daily, monthly, weekly plan set up and try to follow that. Get the basics right. I mean, small blocks will add up into the whole big picture, and that's how you end up giving your exams and it gets sorted. But I know in hindsight it looks easier. During those 8-10 months it was super tough, because again, back to back lectures plus your college exams, college events, and your inter studies, inter exams, plus the whole pressure that where people say CA is super tough. So that's how inter is the toughest. When it comes to final, things are more sorted, I would say. Final is equally tough, and by the way probably more in the eyes of a few people, because we pursue articleship, which is, by the way, I mean, almost similar to a full-time job is how I would put it. So it's more like, you know, you are working plus you are studying, because at the end of the day, you have 3 years for your CA final. So now the course is changing any which ways, but between inter and final you have 3 years, wherein for the first 2.5 years you study plus you do your articleship. 5-6 months approximately you self-study before going for CA finals. So you have 2.5 years again to complete college plus complete your course for CA final, which is, by the way, huge in itself, and that's what makes it tough. Plus also at the same time balance your office. So all of the things together again make things difficult. But in my opinion, what makes CA tough is, and at the same time, what makes CA easy is the art of balancing. So long as you're able to balance things. And when I said balancing, even in for inter, I said college and inter and self study and classes, etc. Even for fine, it's articleship and college classes and CA classes and CA self study. All of these things combined. And obviously, by the way, at the end of the day, you see most of the times I keep saying college or office or self study. There's one part that I'm not explicitly mentioning, which is personal life. At the end of the day,
Right.
we start CA at the age of 17, 18, and we end up completing it. If we end up completing it at first, go between 20, 21, 22, right? So in fact, 17 to 21, 22 are the golden years of your life, right? So in fact, the point is you're so very much preoccupied within the whole CA course, you don't get enough time for yourself in your personal life. That's the art of balancing. That's where it comes into picture, right? That there are very few people, and when you said extraordinary or not an ordinary C, it's not like I am not an ordinary C. I'm an ordinary C. I was an ordinary student. I'm an ordinary CA. It's just that I'm an unconventional CA is the best way I would put it. I probably did things differently as compared to others. So, like you said, college, it's
Right.
not like CA students go to dummy colleges, but CA students don't go to colleges, how I would put it. I mean, obviously, they
Yeah.
pursue their degree, but a lot of people pursue correspondence, open university, bachelors of commerce, or don't end up attending college as often. In my case, I attended a regular college with compulsory attendance, so that's what made it more trickier. So that's where it gets tricky, that there are people who will really take the burden of CA being very difficult, and those 5-6 years you'll be fully pressurized, thinking that एक बार CA खत्म होगा फिर life में chill ही chill है. And not to say chill नहीं है, I mean, you'll be definitely happy when the day you clear CA, you will be earning money, etc. But then that's when you will realize, chill तो तब था जब पढ़ रहे थे, because then at that point in time
Okay.
you did not have responsibilities. I mean, CA करते टाइम तो चलो time भी नहीं था, but still you would not have responsibilities per se. So the real art within the CA course is the art of balancing between all the things that I mentioned alongside your whole personal life. and still ending up
Right.
acing all the buckets, which is what makes it tough. But then people do it. That's the whole thing.
अच्छा कॉलेज लाइफ के बारे में बताओ यार यू हैव बीन टू अ रेगुलर कॉलेज राइट विद अ कंपल्सरी अटेंडेंस एंड आल्सो यू हैव बीन यू नो very active participant in all the extracurricular activities and also tell us about the award which you got in your college.
Yeah, so two, three things. One is, when we were joining the college, I would have asked 100 people whether to join the college that I did. 99 out of 100 people asked me not to join because of the whole attendance thing, right? That they said, there's a
Right.
compulsory attendance criteria, which as a CA student, you won't be able to fulfill. My point was, यार 12th में इतने परसेंट लाके किया कि अगर आप अच्छी कॉलेज में ना जा पाओ, right? So I was like, यार, let me take a shot at it. ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्या होगा, if I feel I am not able to fulfill that attendance, I will go ahead and probably change my college. That's the mindset that I went into the college. So you're like a group of 8, 10 friends. Only two of us ended up joining the college, and the remaining ones did not end up joining because of the attendance criteria. Over a period of 3 years, what happened is, so by the way, the college was like a noon college, and we had specifically requested for the college to have one section in the morning, like one set of classes in the morning, so that we could attend it. And luckily for us, the college granted that request in favor of us, which is especially the professional course students, which we are really grateful to the college about. But then again, unless and until you ask, the answer is always no. So we made that special request, and then we got it in our favor. So the college still wasn't like a normal college because most of the events used to happen noon versus I used to attend these events in the morning. But what I used to do is I used to always request the student council that please try and have at least locution and quiz events over Saturdays, because Saturdays is when the college used to be a morning college, plus I used to have an off at my articleship, like at the office. So like Saturdays when I'll be able to participate, and obviously not every time will they be able to accede to the request because it's one student out of 800 students who's requesting that. But sometimes they still would, right? Like
Right.
50% of the cases, there's a chance that they would go ahead and exceed the request. So that's how I would do it. I will request them कि यार please Saturday रख लो. उन्होंने Saturday रखी है. And Saturdays when I know I will be able to participate, I make it a point that I go ahead and participate. A couple of times, even weekdays, I took special permission from my office saying, this is an important event that I really want to attend. I want to leave. And then if you're doing something nice, like in terms of participating in something nicer, which will really help you out. The office seniors also try to support you, and they will go ahead and grant that leave. In which case, and not a lot of times will you be able to ask that leave, which is obvious. So that's how it was super tough to kind of juggle. But the good part is in both intra as well as inter college events, especially the quiz competitions and elocution competitions, at least 4 or 5 of them. So per annum, at least two, three competitions for like 3 years is what I participated in. Was fortunate enough to kind of end up winning as well. In the pursuit of it, we also got like a few awards for the college and inter-college, events, which made the faculties, the principal happy. And obviously so, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially given the fact that they know that you're juggling between so many things and still ending up probably earning something for the college in terms of an award, they'll be super happy. And that's how I remember, back when I was in school in ninth standard, there's this award called Best Student Award.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even though I was amongst the nominations, I did not make the cut. And I felt, slightly bad at that point because I really wanted that award. It was so fancy to be called the best student of the school, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward to college, I never did any of these activities for that award. I mean, I didn't even know that award existed until the end of second year. And then finally, there's a similar award in the college which is called All Rounder Student of the Year Award. And I was fortunate to end up getting that award in the third year. For me, to be honest, when I still speak about that award, I have goosebumps, and it's not because I won that award. I mean, obviously, when I won it, I was super happy because I missed on an award in the school life versus I ended up getting
Yeah.
it in the college. But that's not the point. The point for me always was that award was a sense of validation for me that I took the right call in terms of joining that college, which most of my friends did
Right.
not. It's an unconventional choice that I made, which I was talking to you about, that led me to that award. And it's not an award that matters at the end of the day. It's that sense of self validation that you took the right call and
Right.
it worked in your favor is what really matters. And even if I did not end up getting that award, it does not matter because I was happy with what I had done. I was happy in participating in all of those events because at the end of the day, like I told you, 17 to 21, 22 is the prime time of your life, right? Golden years of your youth,
Exactly.
etc. which you won't be able to get back even after. I mean, after becoming a CA, I know there'll no longer be locution competitions for me to participate in and quiz competitions for me to participate in. So I have to make sure I make the best of those opportunities when I in time when I'm getting those. So that's the only thing that I did. And I did this not for CV, I did this not for an award, I did this because I loved, let's say, public speaking. And that's the whole point where the whole discipline thing comes into picture. So long as you really want to do something, you love doing something,
Hmm.
something makes you happy, you will find time to do it. You will not
Right.
be
Right.
procrastinating enough to not do it.
Okay. Listening to your story drives me towards this one question that Devesh, what is success for you?
uh, I mean, this is a very very simple yet the most complicated question is how I would say. And while most of the people will go ahead and define success in terms of a position or an amount of money that they would want to, earn, etc., that would give them power to do X, Y, Z number of things. I think I would really want to keep it simple and say, while the definition of success is super dynamic, because what is success for you back then 5 years back probably will no longer be success for you now. I mean, if you were to go ahead and ask like a CA aspirant what is success for him, probably he will say clearing CA exams is success for him.
Yeah.
After someone's cleared CA, if you go ahead and ask him, he'll be like getting a good job or getting a job in XYZ company is success for him. For someone who's working, if you go ahead and ask, he or she will say, reaching XX position in XX number of years or earning so much will be successful. I'm like, these are all, not success, but milestones for you, which is fine,
Yeah.
definitely. But ultimately, when you say success, there
Hmm.
needs to be a one line answer or a one phrase answer, which is, in my case, happiness. Wherever you are, whichever phase of life, whatever you're doing, you have a startup, you're working, you are doing a job, you have a business, you're studying, anything, you're retired, anything you do in life, you should be happy, because that's the whole purpose of life, right? Like, unless and until you're
Hmm.
happy, even if you are earning like crores of rupees, what is the and I know, by the way, when I say all of this, it makes me sound like a motivational speaker, but I think this is a very simple funda which most people don't end up getting right, which is being happy. So long as you are happy, you are successful. Even if, in the eyes of, by the way, the world, in the eyes of your, you may not be successful. Going back to the parents wale, conversation that we had spoken about, if your
Yeah.
happiness lies in being with your parents, who at the end of the day, let's say, want to be in a tier two town, and you don't mind being in a tier two town, you will be able to earn a decent living.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, the whole example where I said, you going to metro city and then calling your parents there. Now, let's hypothetically assume that your happiness lies in probably staying with your parents or ending up staying in a tier two city. And you'll be able to earn
Hmm.
decent enough, maybe not very high in terms of staying in a tier two city or a tier three city or wherever you are from, right? So I feel, even though if you ask people who will go on to say that you'll not be able to earn success in that tier two, tier three city, at least in my eyes, the success is ultimately at the end of the day. And by the way, when I say this, I know people will call me myopic, but then this is my way of looking at life, which is do what makes you feel happy, even if that means staying closer to your parents in a tier two city, earning not crores but decent to be able to, have a decent living. So that's my whole definition of success in life. I mean, not to say living in a tier two city, not at all. That was just an example that I was putting. But for me, success is equal to happiness. As simple as that.
Okay. Since now we have a time crunch, I would just ask you a few last questions, and let's wrap the podcast up with that. My next question to you is, what was your best day in life?
Yeah, it's a very good question because I've never thought about this question per se. But obviously, when you ask this question, for me, the distinct things that come into my head are obviously my achievements. So could be my CA results, whether inter or final, could be the day when I got the All Rounder Student of the Year award. But I think I'll limit myself too much if I really talk about only these achievements. For me, each day that I have spent with a smile on my face, and that could be something as simple as, even if, by the way, hustling, juggling between all of these things, but still ending up with a smile on my face, including the trips that I would have had made. All of these days are really the best days of my life. there's no one day that for me would distinctly stand out saying, this is the best day of my life. Again, like I said, my pursuit will be to be happy, have that smile on my face every day. And I know realistically it does not happen really every day. So I cannot say every day is the best day of my life. But as uh, as the famous kind of quote of from Mr. Amitabh Bachchan goes, that it's yet to come. So maybe I can say my best day is yet to come. But having said that, I'm also content with the life so far. So touch wood. But then again, no one day that really stands out. Definitely amongst the few top ones are the day when I became a chartered accountant, because that was a dream that not just me but my entire family saw since last 10-15 years. So that way, that definitely was a big day. Not to say that that was not foreseen. It definitely was, touch wood. But then that was a good day. All the days where I've spent with a mic in my hand, standing on the stage in front of a crowd, those are the best days of my life. The days where I've been on trips, whether with friends or family, those are the best days of my life, I think, definitely. But the pursuit, by the way, is to make my routine in a manner in which every day becomes the best day of my life. So that's a pursuit I'm kind of inching towards. It's not so far, it's not happened so far, but hopefully will happen someday.
Hoping for the best, and also a beautiful answer, Devesh. Matlab, I can't think of a better answer to this question.
Me neither. I mean, I genuinely didn't have another answer. I mean, I really haven't thought through in terms of what the best day of my life would be. And it will be really unfair to say that it's just those days where I've achieved something, but because even those days where I haven't achieved anything, but I've had the pleasure of spending the day right the way I wanted, I think all those days were the best ones for me.
Beautiful, yeah, Devesh. Mm, Towards the end, I would just ask you to give the teenagers of this generation few advices, because you've cracked CA in one go, then achieved a AIR, then got into a consultancy job just after your CA without an MBA. You've
Yeah.
achieved good in life. Tell us that what we should do and how we should look at the life like.
I think, to be very honest, three, four things. And by the way, a few of these things might sound to be self-contradictory to you, but I really want to kind of go ahead and still explain my rationale behind all of those things. The first and the foremost thing is, it is okay to not know what you want to do. So it's okay to not know what is it that will probably keep you happy. Ultimately, this is the phase of life where you'd want to explore, figure out things that will end up making you happy. But the point at the same time also is, happiness should not be limited to only the day when you probably end up figuring out what is it that makes you happy. The pursuit should be every day, even in the journey, should be such that keeps you happy. So, the journey definitely is more beautiful than the destination, and especially true for my CA journey. And I kept saying, uh, don't wait for reaching the destination to be able to enjoy your life, to be able to be happy, because the day I completed CA, and one of my friends said, and I really believe in that. He said, the moment your life of exams is over, your exam of life begins. So doing something in life, let's say, and that's a very good quote, by the way, all of us should remember that. While at each stage, just think of it, when you were in school, you wanted school life to get over sooner. And you're in college, you feel like you want to become a professional, get a job sooner so that you can earn and you can be independent, etc. Trust me, each phase of life that you passed by, you feel the previous phase was better. And that's the whole art of it. Much rather enjoy the phase that you're currently living. I mean, in school, much later, by the way, like post 8th standardish, I had already realized that I am probably living the best years of my life, which will never come again. So the idea is obviously to look forward to something that is ahead of you, but it's also to enjoy in the moment that you're living in. Again, going back, and I got slightly carried away. Coming back, number one, it's okay to not know what you want to do in life, but at the same time, you should be on a continuous journey or the pursuit of finding out what makes you feel happy. So while it's fine not to know, it's equally important, in fact more important, to keep figuring out what is that makes you feel happy, because at some point you will have to definitely figure out. But what is equally important is, until you figure out, you still continue to enjoy that journey and keep feeling happy. This is at a very high level. At a very tactical level, if I'm to talk about, keep upskilling, because these teenage years especially are really important so far as the whole upskilling thing comes into picture. Post you're a professional, post you start a job, etc. Not to say you won't be upskilling. You will be upskilling, not to say you won't be. But that will be a very specific niche, profile, domain expertise that you'll kind of be upskilling yourself to. The very time of becoming the master of all, not just the jack of all, but master of all, is during these teenage years. And one of the ways could be, through participating in a lot of these competitions. Could be through meeting more and more people, developing those connections to figure out how to improve on each and everything, whether that is sports, by the way, or that is public speaking, soft skills. It is the whole networking part of it, your communication, anything and everything. I think, and gather as much of knowledge as you can, because knowledge never goes waste. And I know again this is very conventional that I'm speaking, but it will really help you out. And especially the time when you start looking for jobs and start a job, your knowledge will really help you out. So the whole teenage years, I think from 13 to 19, I really say, meet as many people as you can. Don't be afraid of experimenting. I mean, I experimented by taking that college with regular attendance, right? But at the end of the day, and not to say that experiments will always be in your favor. It may not be the case. But it's okay to fail again, because this is the phase of life where it's a no regret thing to experiment. Kya hi ho jayega? What will go downhill? For me, the way, and this is one approach that people suggest. One of my seniors in articleship said this. Her dad used to always say, take the ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा approach, which means even if things go downhill, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या हो जाएगा. Just think of it. अगर मेरा कॉलेज में अटेंडेंस नहीं हुआ, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा, एग्जाम नहीं देने देंगे ना. I'll have to probably repeat the semester. Okay, big deal. I don't mind doing that. If you do mind, then don't experiment. Just, it's as simple as that. Your decision, a no go decision will be where you decide ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा. If you're fine with ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जो होगा, go ahead and experiment. So between 13 and 19, or in fact, 13 and 23, I would say the whole decade is for you to explore, find out what you really want to do in life, your hobbies plus your passion, both. Keep enjoying with your friends, meet more and more people, make more and more friends. And at the end of the day, don't be afraid of experimenting. Trust yourself, trust the process, and last but not the least is enjoy the process.
Okay. Beautiful. Again, I can't think of a better answer than this.
I think that the whole idea lies in getting the basics right, keeping things simple rather than making things complicated. As simple as that.
Absolutely
And
true.
don't consider people as benchmark. I mean, if I am here, I am not supposed to be a benchmark for someone who's pursuing CA. You know, the moment you start doing that, and by the way, it's fine to take inspiration. I'm not against taking inspiration, but don't make someone your benchmark, your ideal, because the problem is then you limit yourself. And second is, when you strive to become a version of someone which you are not, and you fail at it, it will only give you despair and disappointment, which does not make any sense. So you decide what's best for you rather than, borrowing that concept from someone.
Right. And I feel on this note, let's wrap the podcast up because we are on a time crunch. But this is not the last podcast we are recording. This is definitely the first. But we'll definitely keep meeting. We'll keep having conversations because I counted, I have 20 more questions left.
Oh my God. I think that will need at least 5 more podcasts. But sure,
Yeah,
let's keep
right.
going.
Yes, I really enjoyed this podcast here. I feel this was one of my best podcasts in season 2. I can blindly say this.
Got it, got it. No, I'm glad you liked it. Thanks again for inviting me through. All the best for your tenure at IIM, and all the best for your podcast channel series as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Devesh, for joining us. And for the audience, I will be linking all his social media handles down below: LinkedIn, YouTube, and all the platforms on which he is available on. And apart from that, also do follow Koi Nayi Baat Batao on Instagram so that you are updated with all the upcoming content and the two different segments which we run on Instagram and YouTube Shorts. That is Kisi ne sahi kaha hai and Sochne wali baat hai. I'm sure you will like it. And yeah, with this, let's come to the end of the podcast. I'll see you guys on next
Bye, guys.
Sunday. अच्छा देवेश एक बार सब्सक्राइब करने बोल दो.
Guys, do subscribe to Dhruv's channel. He's making a lot of efforts for all of you guys, so that you guys get these tips from so-called inspirational people like me. And by the way, I'm not inspirational at all. But yeah, Dhruv's been making immense efforts to get those voices heard and bring them to you. So do honor his efforts by subscribing to the channel.
Yeah, with this, let's end the podcast. I'll see you guys on next Sunday. Till then, stay tuned, keep learning, and peace out.